Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio begins now. Hear the best in new music, artist interviews, stories from the road, and more. You are now backstage, and here's your host, Mothership.
Hey, everybody. My guests this week are the guys from Brotality. They've just finished up their highly successful tour called This Tour Will End You. I hope you enjoy this interview. I have the dudes from Brotality here. Give us your name, what you do in the band, so that people can hear your voice and know who is who.
Awesome. My name is Bryce. I do all of the harsh vocals and play guitar in Brotality.
I'm Reece. I do more of the clean vocals, but still some screaming, and I play bass in Brotality.
I'm John. I play the drums in Brotality.
How did you get started in music?
So Reece and I got started because our parents were always into music, and our dad was always playing music in the house. He always had basses and guitars thrown all over, and we'd always pick them up, put them on our lap, and have no idea what to do with them. For each of our 7th birthdays, he got us both guitars, actually. And once we got those guitars, we started learning. He would show us. He'd make us practice about 15 minutes a day until we got to the point where we loved it so much that we were just taking charge on our own. And then, Reece, you can tell about how you went from guitar to bass.
Yeah, because I think I was 9 when I picked up the bass. But at that time, Bryce was around 11, and he really wanted to be in a band. We really wanted to do a band, him definitely more so than me. And I also kind of wasn't really feeling it on guitar anymore. I wanted to try something different. So I picked up the bass, and I fell in love with it much more than I ever had guitar. And, I've kept playing guitar still, but I really fell in love with bass when I was 9 years old. And it worked well for Bryce and I because then we're doing different things for the band. So we get to fill more of the space. And yeah, it's been like that ever since.
All right. Well, John, how about you? When did you pick up the sticks?
So I started playing drums when I was about 9. My older brother was a guitar player, as was my father. I don't know. Something about my dad. He thought I would take a shine to drums. So he said, I'm going to get this kid a drum kit and see what happens. I mean, he thought it'd be a good fit, and it was. So I played for about a year when I was 9, and then I stopped till I was 13. I took lessons for 2 months, and then after that, I just loved playing it so much. I just never stopped.
Nice. Did he get you a good kit to start with?
The kit he got me is actually the one that we used on tour this summer. I'm still using it. So
nice.
Yeah, he knew even for the first kit, he wanted to do something, at least semi-professional level so that I would get the right experience,
Are y'all all under 20?
Just I am now, I think. I'm 18, I think. Both of you guys are 20, right?
Bryce and I, yeah.
You picked up on it so quickly. When did the idea for Brotality come to be, and how you decided to do this particular style?
Ever since I was a kid, like Reece said, I wanted to do the band. It got so much to the point where, we're from a tiny little small town in a small school. My parents will tell you, I would cry about how bad I wanted to be in a band, and we couldn't find anybody. And then eventually, as we got up farther through elementary school into middle school and the early years of high school, we started with some of our friends just locally in school, and we would just play cover bands. After a bunch of years of doing that, the original music started to flow out a little bit more, and I realized that what I was writing was a lot heavier than the stuff we were playing in at the bar gigs and the 3-hour cover sets. So I realized that it wouldn't really fit in there. So we started thinking about wanting to do a different project. And we started taking all of our original music and we started putting that all under Brotality and really emphasizing the stress on all of the original music and everything that we want to do and emphasizing our own sound coming out of us. And once we started going with that, Brotality took off, and the more cover band we were in, that went to the wayside. Ever since we started writing our own music, Brotality has been the sole priority.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you're kind of thought of as I guess thrash, groove metal, somewhere in there. But you started out gent sound. Where did you get the gent from? Are we looking at Periphery and Animals as Leaders background, or?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, you nailed it right on the head.
Yeah.
It must have been when I was 15 maybe. I started getting into gent, and I went so heavy into it. It was such a heavy phase. I still love that music, but that's all I listened to. And then once I started writing gent, it was just enough time to put that EP out and then realize that that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. The EP came out, It's nothing like we sound like now. We still love all those bands and draw from a lot of what they do. The gent was definitely strong in the early days.
Right after we released Hypernova, which was that first EP, we discovered Mastodon, and that was like the switch. Like we discovered Mastodon, and then, yep, we know what we want to do now.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
How did you decide who was going to be doing the harsh vocals and who's going to do the clean vocals?
I don't think it was ever like a conversation of, all right, Bryce, you're doing this, I'm doing this. But back when we were doing kind of like 4-hour cover sets at like bars and stuff, there was a time where I had to pick up vocals because we were in between vocalists. I used to just play bass when I was younger, so I would sing a little bit. And like back then I had a much higher voice because this was like 5 years ago. And then, Bryce had a deeper voice because he was older than me. And that kind of just continued for those like interim kind of awkward years.
I was going to say, your voice changed during that time.
Yeah, it definitely did. And it was definitely hard getting used to, like in terms of singing and especially learning how to scream. Yeah. And I honestly only really have learned how to scream and sing correctly just before we went on tour. Like I really solidified how to do it right. I think that's how it came about. Just those awkward stages and me being a little younger than Bryce and having a higher voice than him, it just made more sense because he could hit the lower notes. And so then over the years, we just kept that up.
And it still really isn't like cut and dry in terms of who does what. The first vocals that you hear on the new album, it's Reece screaming. And it's one of the gnarliest screams I've ever heard. Like it's that real like grimy black metal scream in Frost Empire. And then there's other songs on the album where I'm doing like clean harmonies, whether it's in like Sledgehammer or songs like that. So we still like to do a little bit of both, but like mainly Reece does most of the cleans and I mainly do most of the screams.
Now y'all been through a few drummers and John's been with you how long?
Since February.
All right, John, how's life changed? Because you went on the tour, right?
Yeah. That was all me. How has life changed? For instance, this is the first time I've ever been even remotely introduced to a Christian scene of any kind. So that was for sure very interesting. The community is unlike anything I've ever seen before. That alone is crazy. And it's also the first metal project I've been a part of just because of where I grew up. Like I grew up playing Metallica and Pantera, System of a Down, stuff like that with my older brother as I was growing up. But aside from that, there really wasn't like a metal scene or any metal kind of going on where I grew up. So I ended up joining like indie bands, punk bands, stuff like that. And so, yeah, just the fact that it's my first legitimate metal project, that alone is just crazy because I feel like I'm dipping back into like more of my roots as a drummer, like more of the stuff I grew up playing and the stuff that's more at my core. So that feels really good to get out of my system at the very least. And I don't know, the show's just, there's so much energy. It's one of the wildest set of shows I've ever played.
When did you guys sign with Rottweiler Records?
We signed with them like right after the pandemic hit because we had just released Salting the Wound as a single before our first album came out. Just preceding the pandemic, and then they hit us up because of that song. And Sean basically asked, we really like this song, can you deliver other songs like this? And we sent him the other songs that we had recorded in those sessions, and he really liked what we were doing. And then after some talks, we signed with them, and it's been about a little over 2 years now, and it's been awesome. The management change has been another big step up. Like it's really sick.
Yeah, he sold Rottweiler, didn't he?
Yeah, Mythic Panda owns it now.
Yeah. But everything is running pretty smooth.
Oh, yeah. They've got a whole team behind it now. Like we on tour, when we were in the Dallas-Fort Worth area down in Texas, we were able to go to like their headquarters and their studio and go around, jam through all their gear, see what they do. So it was really, really cool.
Backstage with Mothership returns after this.
Miller Express LLC is a Solid Rock Radio business ministry partner specializing in delivery, setup, and relocation of storage buildings. More info by calling 803-300-7594.
Well, you have 2 full-length albums. One of them came out in May, which was the one, I guess, that I finally found you on. The Woods Will End You.
Yes.
Let's talk about that one.
Awesome.
Tell me your favorite song and why.
Ooh, I love that question. Honestly, it changes all the time. It's It's funny to hear myself say that, because like whenever I listen to band interviews, I feel like they say the same thing. But it does change all the time. I would say my favorite one is probably Frost Empire, because I think we did a lot of stuff that we didn't think we could really do before that, in terms of like, you know, like my screams in that part are totally new and kind of the only time that I've done screams like that. I love the bass tone, just the drums and bass. I love those verses. I'm super happy with how the lyrics came out too. So I'd probably say Frost Empire, but a close runner-up, and maybe the song I'm most proud of that we've ever released, is The Moon Below. Just because that, like, when I listen to some of my favorite, like, prog bands especially, and they have these big, long epics, I think one of the biggest things that stands out to me is when they don't feel as long as they are. And I feel like when I listen to The Moon Below, it doesn't feel like 11 and a half minutes, which I'm pretty proud of. So
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I could go through and say why every song is my favorite on the album, but I think if I had to pick one, I might say Sledgehammer. I think that song just encapsulates so many different things I love about music and so many genres that I love. And it was one of those songs that just, it really came together so right for me. Like every next part that I wrote was like the part that should be following it. And like, I felt like that song almost formed itself. That sounds so pretentious. But that song just feels awesome. And I'm really proud of all of the layering and harmony work there is to that song. I feel like we really created a very dense atmosphere. And then we have all that fancy, pretty stuff in the beginning. And then at the end, just it gets thrown out the window. I hit a big old dive bomb, which I'm completely addicted to. And then it's just like what might be the gnarliest riff on the album with like 4 different fuzz pedals going. And it's just insanity. So I love that so much.
So maybe that one might be your favorite to play too, huh?
You know, we've played it live before, but for the same reason I love it, makes it hard to play live. Because being a 3-piece, we play pretty raw live, where we don't play with tracks. Like, we like to just bring that raw energy and deliver. So we don't play with tracks. We're not on clicks. And so it's hard because we don't have the layers with us. So, like, when I try to play that song just one, I'm doing the lead lines as, like, these full chords because I got to play multiple guitar parts at once. So it makes it very hard to pull off live. And it's still a blast. But I don't know if that's my favorite to play live, just because there's so much going on and it's a little just throw down and almost hurt myself by throwing down.
A little panicky. How about you, John? What's your favorite one off the new album?
Flesh Eater, I think. And I think that's the best, like, middle ground between my favorite to play live and my favorite just to listen to, because Midnight Fire into Flesh Eater, I think musically is just spectacular. I think it just hits really hard. And it just, like, that transition just, I don't know, I feel like it punches you in the face musically. And then aside from that, just the groove in Flesh Eater, I think it's really unique. It's not something you hear pretty often. Like, I think it's by far the most, like, I don't want to say original, but, like, the most fresh to play and hear, you know, in the general scope of metal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rhythmic freedom in that groove, too. So I get to have a lot of fun with it live, especially because I didn't write the part. So, like, I'm not so much attached to it when I'm playing it live. I'm not like, oh, well, this is how it was written. Like, I have a little more wiggle room in that song than anything else. So I like it a lot.
Nice. One of the things I think that caught my ear is when I think I know where you're going with a song, you don't necessarily go where I think you're going next. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you surprised me.
That's awesome.
That's good to hear.
And it's a good surprise.
Yeah.
Thank you. We love doing stuff like that because it keeps it original. And like one of my number one rules when I'm writing is I just like to write whatever I want to, and like whatever's going to come out as my style, because I do most of the riff writing. So it's like when I'm writing a song, I like to just like put out whatever's going to come out. So I feel like having those transitions or going into places where like you might not hear it on like a radio top 100 song, but like that's what's coming next. Like that's what I hear coming next. I love to do that stuff because it keeps it really fresh.
Keep up what you're doing.
Thank you.
What's the biggest challenge you guys have ever taken on?
I think for you, probably booking the tour, it was big, right?
Yeah, we went out on the road, as you know, for like 6.5 weeks this summer. And almost the entirety of that tour, I did all of the booking for. It was like booking agents. We didn't have any like companies pushing us. Like there were a few dates where like Rottweiler booked one date, or we hooked up with another band for 2 or 3 days or whatever. But all of that was like set off through me sending emails and just like cold calling a million venues in cities we've never not even played, just cities we've never even been to. So that was crazy. Started in January of this year and went right up until tour started and as we continued tour. And it was like a full-time job. Like I was working hours a day, every day, just putting the whole tour together. And also that being something that like isn't necessarily completely coming natural. Like I don't think anyone's born knowing how to book a tour.
Yes, I was born to book.
I think that might have been my biggest one.
I have to say that I'm impressed because having tried to book an event here and there, that's tough. You get a lot of hang-ups on that one.
Yeah, thank you. It was brutal, but it worked out.
It is brutality, right?
One that comes to mind, it's one that I'm kind of taking on now, and I don't want to give like too much of it away. But like as a lyricist, something that I've always wanted to do, and that I've managed to do more or less like in all of our releases, specifically our 2 albums, is have like a similar lyrical theme. Not exactly just in terms of message, because I like to have like different messages that speak to me at different times. But like I like to use a lot of like natural, fantastical elements and words and stuff in songs. Like, you know, Flesh Eater of the Forest and stuff like that, especially on this last album. So things like that, like mentally when I have to organize that stuff and try to make it all make sense and at the same time have the songs be able to stand alone but also feel like a piece when they're put together on the album is always tricky. And right now we're moving forward with writing new music again now that we've gotten home from tour that we're super excited about. But lyrically, I'm more excited than I ever have been before to write lyrics because I've got a lot of really cool ideas that I haven't seen a lot of guys do, which I'm really excited about to do for this next like release, whatever it's going to be. So right now my mind is just like always thinking about it, like in the back of my mind, ideas here and there. Like I always am jotting down notes on my phone, just like lines here or there. How am I going to organize that? How am I going to fit it all in? So I think that's honestly probably the thing that's on my mind most since like we've done the band.
And this guy goes so hard with lyrics. Like, again, not to give too much away, but like he's like building an entire world like for our next release. And
I'm taking it. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I love it. I'm so excited.
I'm excited.
So you're saying it's going to be out of this world?
Oh,
it might be.
What about you, John?
Doing what we're doing while also pursuing a degree in computer engineering stinks a lot. a lot. It can be very, very annoying and stressful. But it's one of those things where like we book a gig and as soon as I start playing the intro to our live set, it just all kind of melts away and I remember why I'm doing it and it all makes sense in that moment. But there's times where I'm like, wow, this is rough.
Backstage with Mothership returns after this. You're listening to Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio. Check us out on Facebook at I'm with Mothership.
How do you balance your faith and music in the general and Christian markets?
Yeah, so I love music. And my faith is a huge part of my life, too. And that guides like my actions and actually who I am as a person, whereas my music is kind of an outlet and it's that other passion. Right. So you have like these two things. Instead of just juggling them separately, it's hard to just separate them. And I don't want to do that. And so using any opportunity I really can get, I want to mold the two together. And then I think both of them help each other out. I think music can help faith in a lot of ways, just as other bands have impacted me. And I know that my faith has helped me whenever I'm struggling to write something or anything like that. And then that's on a personal level. And then in terms of like what we want to do, I've always said that I want to just play music, right? And like talk to people at shows and all that. I want to do that, but on a much deeper level, I want to do something else. I don't want it to just be like, hey, come out and have fun with us. See you guys next time. That was a fun 2 hours. I want to be able to have a deeper connection. You know, if you're given an audience, you're blessed enough to have people in front of you and you kind of have their attention for a little bit. I want to make it worthwhile. And if I can at all in any way possible have an impact on their life, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, what more could anyone ask for? And that being said, what's had the biggest impact on my life is my faith, right? Like, a huge part of it. So like saying stuff from stage, we give a little message each time. I give a little talk from stage. We have a sign at our merch table with a phone number that anyone can use. It's directly like sends them to someone from Heart Support. They can talk one-on-one about whatever they're struggling with or going through. It's free to use. It's like anonymous. So we give people that hope from stage and that direct outlet instead of just saying there's hope. Like, here's a way that you can actually talk to someone if you're struggling. And then at the end, Bryce lets everyone know that we love them, but more importantly, God loves them too. And just planting that seed, because we're of the mindset too, like, we don't want to beat people over the head with it. And especially nowadays, like, a lot of people feel like there's so much negativity and like judgment coming from the Christian scene. And from what we've seen from our experience in the Christian scene, it's just the opposite. People are so loving. People are so caring. Like, reflecting on our tour, like, oh my goodness, the people that we've met, like the amazing, like, kind-hearted Christians that we've met are just such awesome people, such selfless people. So just giving people that little message, letting them know that, like, listen, if you don't believe in God, or if you think of this in a different way, or whatever you think, like, just know that God loves you and that there's hope even when it feels like there is none. And just that seed, I think, is honestly the best thing that anyone blessed enough to have some sort of crowd can really do. It can feel so overwhelming at times. Christianity is this like big thing that's never possible to fully unravel, and it's so complicated. But like, at the end of the day, it's really just love one another, be kind to one another, and go at everything you do in life, put love first. So like, every day when I wake up, like, that's what I try to do. As much as possible, want to get rid of that stereotype that Christians are judgmental. Because I know so many people, when they think of Christianity, they think of that.
You can't even get to the next level or share the gospel with them.
I know, and nothing hurts me more than that, because there's so much hope and love and like positivity waiting to be found in that. But they think they're just being judged first when they should be just being loved first.
That's right. Let God do the work.
Yep.
If there was no Brotality, if there was no band, what would you guys be doing?
To make this more interesting, I'd want to be like a guitar tech for another band, or like, realistically, it'd probably be something in music or along that line. But if I was to do something like not involve music, if like music in the band wasn't part of my life, I think it would be so sick to like work in a national park. If I could be like a high level park ranger, or like when I was a kid, I wanted to be like a biologist in a national park, like something like that would be really cool. Just be really involved with nature, being outside. Like, I love that. So like, that would be really, really cool.
Nice.
Oh, I love this question, by the way. These are awesome questions. I just started college. Classes haven't even started yet, but I'm majoring in English. I read all the time. I love to read. I love to write. And last year, my senior year in high school, I took a creative writing class, and that kind of changed my outlook on English and words as a whole.
Now we know why you're the Brotality lyricist.
It changed my whole outlook on English as a whole. So I've really gotten into like creatively writing, especially like anything fantasy or sci-fi. I love to world build. I'm like a huge nerd when it comes to that. I love Lord of the Rings and Dune and all that stuff. Definitely it would be to be a published author. A life goal that I have is to like write my own like fantasy series, put that out, have it like my own fantasy world, my own series. I want to have that finished at some point by the end of my life.
All right, John, it's your turn.
If music was somehow off the table entirely, I am in college for computer engineering. There's something about software that I'm really into. So in that regard, I mean, something along the engineering basis, or maybe in the vein of like video game development of some sort, something where there's more art form involved still, something that's still highly creative, that's not limited to just like business or marketing or whatever, something where I could let some of my creativity shine still. Like that's non-negotiable if it's got to involve some sort of something where I could put myself into it. There's no getting around that. It's got to be one of those.
So we kind of mentioned a bucket list. Anybody else have any bucket lists?
I think one of the ones that I love to do, I'm really into modding guitars and making little changes and doing setups. And I've built a few guitars from kits, but I'd really love one day to fully build a guitar like just from straight up pieces of wood. Really build a guitar and get one to the point where like it's something that plays like really, really well and something that I want to play all the time. So awesome guitar is on the bucket list.
Cool. All right.
I do have another one. This is probably the nerdiest thing that I could imagine, but I really, really want to go to New Zealand, which is where they filmed The Lord of the Rings, and go and hike and take pictures on all of the places, like all those scenes in the movies, all those like iconic shots. I want to do that so badly.
I love that. Okay, everybody knows I have to ask this question. What are your favorite road snacks?
Oh, this is a great question.
This one's a little tricky because Reece and I, our whole family, we've been vegan for 16 years now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it narrows it down a little bit. A lot of junk food is so fake that it happens to be vegan.
That's true.
What, like Oreos?
Oh, yeah. Oreos are a big one.
Yeah, I know this.
Another one, on tour this summer, we discovered that a lot of the pies from Walmart are vegan too.
Ooh, the Dutch apple pie from Walmart. I tried the peach and the cherry on different occasions. They're both good, probably 6 out of 10. But the Dutch apple pie from Walmart, it's like $5 already made, is really, really good.
Huh.
Yes.
Okay. All right, John, how about you?
The bulk of the tour consisted of protein bars and beef jerky. Jerky first. Jerky would be the top one. But before we went on tour, I made like 4.5 pounds of jerky to bring on the road. And that was just amazing. So jerky easily. It just does the job.
Also, I would like to throw into the running, like, two healthier options that I went for more than the Walmart pie. Simple but cheap and doable while you're driving. Just a bag of salad, like of the ready-made salad from Walmart with just a bottle of dressing. You could eat it right from the bag too. Always a great lunch.
Nice life hack.
Yes, exactly. And I'm a huge fan of the like squeezable apple sauces, especially if you're talking about like right before the show.
Big fan of this guy.
Honestly, Walmart makes them too, and they're cheap. Just unsweetened applesauce with the squeeze thing. You could down it in like 5 seconds. Perfect.
That was a really vegan response.
So if you're on the road and you see a restaurant, which one do you pull into?
Moe's, probably. I mean, if we're like stopping for
There's
dinner.
at the middle ground for all of us. Moe's will kill it every time.
Ruby Tuesday is also sick. Like being able to get a salad bar on tour when you're usually just eating like microwave vegan chicken patties, a Ruby Tuesday goes good. But then you also got to consider a budget because you're on the road. And so Taco Bell's always a good thing.
Oh, Taco Bell. Yeah, man.
That's right. That's a touring man's dream.
Oh, yeah.
I am so excited for you guys to get Uprise this year.
Oh.
Yes, we're so excited.
We've been going since we were kids. So being able to be here and be playing the stage that we've seen so many insane bands that we've looked up to play is going to be surreal.
That's awesome. Well, I hope to be right up front.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for talking with me. I've had a great time with you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, likewise.
Yes, thank you.
We will see you out on the road very shortly.
Cannot wait.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night. Take care.
All right. Bye. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more great music and check out my blog page on the Solid Rock Radio website for my guests' social media links. If you've missed any of my past interviews, you can find them uploaded to podcast.solidrockradio.org. Have a wonderful week, and let's be kind to one another.